This talk was given by Roshi Rafe Martin, guiding teacher of the Endless Path Zendo, a lay Buddhist community in Rochester, New York. Join our practice, in person or online, at endlesspathzendo.org.
Today is Saturday, August 1st, 2026. Hard to believe, we're in August. And we will continue with our reading from A Zen Life of Bodhisattvas, a book of mine from, I think, 2023. Today we'll take up the section where the Buddha himself is the Bodhisattva. So, of course, in Buddhist tradition, the Bodhisattva is someone on the path towards Buddhahood, living by vow. That is, living by the great, deep vow of endless wisdom and endless compassion for the sake of all. With a capital T, Bodhisattva with a capital B, always refers to the Buddha himself in his past lives, working towards becoming the Buddha Shakyamuni, who was originally the Prince Siddhartha Gautama, who then gave up the throne, worked on himself in practice, and awoke completely and fully and became known as the Buddha, the awakened one, Shakyamuni, from the Shakya clan, the silent sage of the Shakya clan. So we will look at a past life of the Buddha as the Bodhisattva in our continuing on with the Zen life of Bodhisattvas. So this is chapter 9. I've skipped chapter 8, which is a folk tale, a Buddhist folk tale of the Bodhisattva Samantabhadra. It's very brief, and at some point we may include it in a kind of collection of shorter pieces. But for now, our will be chapter 9, Why Be Born Human? The Bodhisattva Makes a Mistake. And an earlier version of this talk on this Jataka tale, past life story, of the Buddha as the Bodhisattva, can be found in Before Buddha Was Buddha, Learning from the Jataka Tales, an earlier book of mine. So we'll look at the Kampeya Jataka, which is number 506 in the Pali collection of 547 such tales. The story essentially goes like this. Long ago, when the Kampa River was the boundary between the kingdoms of Anga and Magadha, there was fighting between the two realms. One day, the king of Magadha, pursuing Anga warriors, came to the river boundary and thought, better to drown in the river than be slaughtered by foes. And spurring his horse forward, he plunged into the water. Down on the river bottom, the Naga serpent king, Kampeya, was enjoying himself, listening to Naga musicians, play on instruments of ivory and gold, and watching Naga maidens dance. The river bottom had been strewn with gold and silver powders, and the flame bright coral trees had been hung with diamonds, rubies, emeralds, pearls. There's reason for all this in terms of the meaning of this story, as you'll see. Suddenly the music stopped and the maidens grew still. Looking up, the Naga king saw a man on horseback drifting down through the water. He saw nobility on the man's face, and taking a liking to him, allowed horse and rider to arrive safely on the river bottom. Rising from his pearl throne, the Naga king offered the stranger his own seat, saying, "Fear nothing, friend. I have only your welfare in mind. Who are you, and why have you entered my realm?" Obviously, we're in a mythic zone here. We'll see what that means as we go further into the story. But this is not ordinary reality. We're dealing with mythic dimensions and creatures, beings of myth, as you'll see. Then the defeated king of Magadha opened his heart and poured out his troubles. And the Naga king said, "Why, the solution's simple. You shall rule both Anga and Magadha." For 6 days, the king of Magadha remained on the river bottom as the guest of Kampeya, the Naga king. But on the 7th, he rose from the river and with the Serpent King's protection over him, defeated the king of Anga, and then after that ruled both kingdoms. Because he ruled both kingdoms, there was peace, all warring ceased. And there was great friendship between the human king and his benefactor, the king of the Nagas. To honor their friendship, the new king of the two kingdoms built a pavilion of gold and jewels on the river bank, and each year the glittering serpent king, that's what a Naga is, a serpent being, rose from the river and, surrounded by retainers, took human form to receive precious gifts from his friend, the human king. Now, at that time, the Bodhisattva, the Buddha, Shakyamuni, in a past life, was the eldest son of a very poor family. I always think that's so great when in the Jataka tales you find out, like people get so caught up in past lives, like they were Cleopatra in their past life, or Leonardo da Vinci or something. The Buddha was the eldest son of a very poor family. How refreshing. Awed by the riches he saw each year at this gift-giving, he wished, naturally enough, that one day he too might enjoy such a life, that is, receive such blessings, have such wealth, ease, comfort. He's in a very poor family. The eldest son has lots of responsibilities in a very poor family. He had a burdened life. This is the Buddha in a past life. Well, not long after this, he died. The Naga king, Kampeya, also died. Given his merit, the Bodhisattva's wish was fulfilled. It was his dying wish. He came into life as the new king of the Nagas of the Kampa River. Whoa! He got what he wanted. He has wealth, he has power, he has, well, you'll see. Pretty good, right? Or, looking down along his long serpentine body, the Bodhisattva thought, what have I done? I've gained riches but have wandered from the true path. My aim is enlightenment. To achieve it, I must be human. Though surrounded by riches, he felt not joy, but shame. But when the Naga maiden, Samana, exclaimed, has a god taken life among us? Such is the beauty of our new king. And the Naga musicians took up their instruments and began to play, and the Naga maidens danced. The Bodhisattva set aside his sorrow. Taking human form, he sat in splendor on the pearl throne, and then with Samana as his wife, he ruled the underwater realm of the Nagas. One day he thought, though I dwell in splendor as a serpent king, I am far from ultimate truth. It is better to be human, even a human being without any wealth or any power, for even ordinary human beings can practice the way of liberation, the way of the Bodhisattva. What I have gained is not the true freedom. His wealth, his power, all the things we yearn for, that people sell their souls for in this world, that people do evil in this world, that people will harm others in this world to gain. The Bodhisattva, just recently a very poor man, has gained all this wealth and power and ease, and he goes, that's not it. What I've gained is not the true freedom. It's very simple, isn't it? Yet look at our world. People lie. People in power are lying shamelessly. Why? What do they think they're going to get from it? Then in order to develop the virtue he would need to regain human life, the Bodhisattva fasted one day each week. Eventually, finding this too easy, he decided to return to the land once a month and there keep vows of fasting and nonviolence. When the half moon appeared, he left the river, taking the form of a silver cobra. He coiled around an anthill and lay in the dust with lowered hood. Yet even in this form, the people recognized him as the Naga king and didn't strike him or chase him away. Instead, they offered flowers and perfumes. And when he returned the following month, they built a cloth pavilion to cover over the spot he had chosen, and he could receive their offerings there in greater comfort. And in this way, a pattern was set. Every month he would go and do this, and every month he would receive gifts, food, whatever, from the people who recognized him as the great Naga king. One day his wife, Sumana, said to the Bodhisattva, "The world of men is filled with treachery. I want to know that you're safe when you're there." The Bodhisattva pointed to a clear pool in their garden beneath the river. "If someone hits me, the water in this pool will turn cloudy. If a winged Garuda, enemy of Nagas, carries me off, the pool will become dry. If a snake charmer captures me, the water in the pool will turn the color of blood." Embracing his wife, he left the river and returned to the anthill. A Brahmin who'd just learned powerful spells in the city of Takasila heard of this miraculous silver serpent and thought, why, with my spells I could control this snake and become rich. So he went there, and reciting his mantras, he approached the great being who lay coiled in cobra form. When the Bodhisattva heard these magical spells, he felt like fiery splinters and iron nails were being pounded into his head. His mouth burned, his eyes stung. Flicking out his tongue, he raised his head and lowered or spread his cobra hood. But seeing the snake charmer, he thought, "One drop of my poison could shatter his body. He does not know my power. I have taken vows and will not harm him." And lowering his hood, he lay back down. Now, feeling secure, the Brahmin chewed herbs and spit them on the great serpent's head, and a fiery blister arose. He smeared his hands with more of the herbs, dragged the Bodhisattva from beneath his cloth canopy, stretched him out full length on the ground, pinned his head with a forked stick, beat him with a club, spit more herbs into his mouth, which filled with blood. "Snake," he said, "you are in my power. Resist and it will be even worse for you." And then he pushed and folded the Bodhisattva's body and, shoving him into a basket, set off for the next town. There he gathered a crowd and made the Naga Lord perform. He did a dance, and what a dance it was. The great being moved his snake body with such grace and speed. He made circles, squares, and lotus flowers appear in the air, made 1, 10, 100, 1,000 hooded heads appear. The people loved it. They tossed jewels and coins, and the Brahmin thought, if this snake brings me such reward in even a small town, what might it do for me in a big city or even at the royal court? So he bought a cart, put the Naga king in a basket, or the basket with the Naga king in it, on the cart, and drove to the capital city. And there, the capital city was Benares, it always is in these old tales, old Jatakas. So he drove to Benares, but he passed towns along the way, and in each town he'd stop, have the Serpent King dance again, and he got even wealthier. But the Bodhisattva on this journey refused to eat. "If I eat the frogs he kills for me," the Bodhisattva thought, "he'll only kill more. I can't allow it. I've taken vows." Offered fried cakes and honey, he thought, "If I eat these delicacies, I'll be stuck in this basket forever, till I die." And again, he just would not eat. His wife Sumana was worried. Where was her husband? Why wasn't he back? She went to the pool beneath the river and found it to be the color of blood. So a snake charmer had him. At once she set out to find him. Arriving at the anthill, she saw signs of a struggle. Taking the form of a radiant goddess, she flew through the air. Alighting outside a village, she heard talk of a serpent's dance and a snake charmer's journey. Weeping, she rose and flew toward Benares, where the snake charmer was headed. There, preparations for a royal show were already underway. The palace courtyard was strewn with white sand. A fine carpet was set at the center. The Brahmin arrived, put his jeweled basket on the carpet, and charmed the great being forth. When the Bodhisattva danced, he formed circles, squares, and lotus flowers, made 10, 100, 1,000 hooded heads appear. Jewels and coins fell around him like rain. Suddenly, the serpent king Bodhisattva stopped. Holding his body still, he gazed up into the sky. The crowd, the Brahmin, the king, all looked up too and were filled with wonder. For standing in the bright air was a beautiful, shining woman weeping. Tears fell from the Bodhisattva's eyes too when he saw her, and he crawled back into his basket where he lay hidden. The king called to the woman up in the air, "Are you a goddess? For not human is your power or your beauty. Who are you? And why do you weep? Is it for rage or for sorrow?" "I am no goddess," answered Sumana, "but a Naga queen who weeps for rage and for sorrow. My lord's power, like that of Shakra, king of the gods, is so great. His single breath might destroy your city. Yet such is his love of goodness that he dances harmlessly before you. He has taken vows and will not strike. Though his body is bruised and blistered, his sides bony and thin, beneath the Kampa River 16,000 Nagas call him king. This snake charmer has taken a great lord for his prophet. As one desirous of merit, will you not, great king, set him free?" Then the king offered the Brahmin the finest bull of his herd, 100 of the best cows, 100 chests filled with golden gems, a golden throne shaped like a flax flower with blue silk cushions like petals. "Release this holy Naga lord," he said, "and all this is yours." "Willingly," said the Brahmin. So the serpent king Bodhisattva came out of the basket and went into a flower. Shedding his serpent shape, he then reappeared as a young man in robes of gold. There he stood, handsome as a god, and Sumana, descending from the skies, stood beside him. Those who had come thinking to simply see a serpent's dance found themselves well rewarded. After the king and his nobles escorted the Bodhisattva and Sumana back to the river before parting, he asked if he might see their underwater palace. Then all of them entered the river together and descended to the river bottom. The human king and his court were astonished by the riches they saw there. "Why, great king," or great being rather, he asked the Bodhisattva, "why, great being, did you leave such magnificence to lie on an anthill in the dust?" "All such treasure," said the Bodhisattva, "is nothing compared to the treasure of human birth, through which enlightenment may be realized. Hills of pearl, groves of flame coral trees, clusters of jewel fruit, diamonds, emeralds, rubies, sapphires, mountains of gold, lakes of silver. Take what you want and use it for the good." Filling chests with treasure, the human king and his court returned to their own realm. However, they'd been given so much gold that, as they traveled, the excess, spilling from their treasure cart, stained the earth, which is why the ground from the shores of the Kampa River to the ancient city of Benares remain the color of gold to this day. So, This seems like a fantasy, but it's a very profound teaching. Mythic dimension is not something that Buddhist tradition emphasizes, but at the same time, it is not something that Buddhist tradition ignores at all. In fact, it is deeply woven into the very nature of practice. This sense of something beyond the literal, something beyond the self that is all entangled with its own needs and issues and continues to arise. And yet, there is something so much more potential to each one of us. Joseph Campbell said something like, myth being like maybe the furthest that language and images can go before really we enter the great silence. Too many people these days think of myth as like an untruth, but that's such a shallow or narrow or limited understanding of what myth means. So, a Buddhist parable says there's a blind turtle swimming in an endless sea, and once every 100 years, it rises to the surface of the ocean, lifts its head from the water. At the same time, a board with a hole in it floats randomly on that endless ocean. What are the odds that the turtle, rising once every 100 years, and a blind turtle, and sticking its head, will stick up into the air, will stick its head through the hole in the board? Long odds, indeed. Buddhist tradition says these are the odds that we each have faced and beaten in simply being born human. We take this treasure so for granted. It is pitiful, isn't it? That's how hard it was to be born human, just as you currently are, with all your issues and all your challenges and all your problems and all your anxieties and all of it. You've beaten those odds, and there's a reason why you did. It's said that once we are human, the odds of encountering the Dharma, once we're human beings, are even longer. Perhaps a vow lies at the root of our success, a vow and a great deal of work. And yet, how easy it is for us to take it all so for granted. Sure, I'm a human being, but there are billions of us, so what? And yes, I sit in Zazen, but so do many others. So again, so what? Then again, if, as the tale suggests, there's something more to human life, something valuable, that only becomes possible by being human, then this story, 2,500 years old, is a gift. It's a wake-up call and a warning. If we don't use the opportunity of this life, how long might it be before the chance comes round again? The sea of time and space, that ocean, is endless, and the turtle is quite blind. When will we have this chance again? Tibetan Buddhism is clear on the effort it takes to attain human birth. Specific conditions must be met for egg and sperm to coalesce and work together to create a human being. Pure essences of the parents, the 5 universal elements of earth, air, fire, water, and space, the 3 biological humors, phlegm, bile, and air, plus a 4th link beyond physical conditions supplied by the parents that is karmic and emotional, attracting the being to a particular set of parents. Buddhist tradition says we choose our parents. It doesn't mean consciously, rationally. It means there's an attraction, karmic, it can't be explained, to the conditions that will give us birth in this life. And then after this, first begins the arduous work of forming a body and mind. That's blastula, gastrula, all that stuff, traversing more ancient animal forms in utero, and rising into a human condition from an initial curd-like mass at one with the mother. pushed through the birth canal, we take a first breath, and then at last start the difficult, demanding process of individuation, in which we lose our original sense of connection and awareness of the thoughts and feelings of others. Let me repeat that. We lose our original sense of connection and awareness of the thoughts and feelings of others. We solidify, imagine ourselves more and more alone and isolated, and start reacting as if that aloneness was itself all that was totally real. After all that, if our karma ripens, we may begin spiritual practice, slowly finding our way back to our original sense of connection without losing what was uniquely matured in this life, and the possibilities of that maturing we've achieved so far are open to us. Why make this effort to become human? And why, once human, do we strive to mature further? From a Buddhist perspective, the answer is our fundamental vow, the vow of mind, not intellect, to know itself, awaken, and be of benefit to all. A Bodhisattva vow, which expresses the fundamental, usually unconscious aspiration of all living things. If, in reality, all living things are my own self in various forms, why wouldn't I want to realize this and be of help? If my arm hurts, don't I rub it? If my head hurts, wouldn't I soothe it? According to Buddhist tradition, it is only from a human condition that awakening is possible. The vow to awaken is fundamental to our nature, and it propels us. But it's not a vow made in words. The flower vows to turn to the sun, and the apples and open. The apple seed vows to become a tree, producing apples. The caterpillar vows to free itself from the cocoon, grow wings, and fly. A Zen student's great vows for all are a conscious reminder of our fundamental determination, the fundamental determination of all life, to know and fully actualize what we already are and fulfill our potential. Buddha simply means awakened to what we already are. And this is propulsion, we might say, that lies behind evolution itself. While there are and have been billions of humans on Earth, what does it mean to be fully human? Does having 2 legs, eyes, ears, nose, hands, brain, and feet sum it up, automatically making us human? If so, then okay, there are billions. Though even billions is not that many if we consider the billions of other planets in our galaxy that might be capable of life, and the countless billions of planets in billions of other galaxies. Then the billions of Earth humans may turn out to be a very small number. But if by human being we mean something else, specifically someone wise and compassionate, not driven by greed, anger, ignorance, or fear, someone who can be counted on when the going gets rough, then that number of human beings may be relatively small. Though oddly, when the chips are down, such people seem to show up as if they've been waiting in the wings all along. What does it take to be or become such a genuinely human being? This is not a theoretical issue. Look at what's happening in our culture today. This forms a very, very old story and a very sad one. What does it take to be a genuine human being? Buddhism says that there are 6 realms. Realms of gods, warring spirits, hungry ghosts, animals, hell dwellers, and human beings. These realms can be understood mythically or literally or psychologically, or all of these simultaneously. If we take it psychologically, then it's a way of recognizing that we may only be fully human for part of each day, and only to varying degrees. When we're consumed by anger and seek to fight those who seem to oppose us, we're warring spirits or asuras. When we're tormented by unfilled wants and desires, we're hungry ghosts or pretas. When everything is going great and we seem to float on air, we're gods or devas. When passions and instincts drive us, and life seems beyond control, we're animals. Though such a view shortchanges animals, actual animals, and their individual talents and wisdoms. When we suffer anguish and pain and feel totally isolated and locked in ourselves and alone, we're in hell. We're hell dwellers. When we're totally or truly human, we fear death. We have anxieties. We worry about our world and about our families and friends. We strive to do our best to be happy and be of use. It's hard work being human. The parable of the blind turtle gains power when we see it as a way of talking about the odds, how long they are of becoming fully human. Not simply about having or gaining a human body and form, though as Tibetan Buddhism points out, that too is very kind of literally true. It's very difficult to gain human form. Buddhism has always held that perspective, all schools. To become a human being is no light thing, no easy thing. But this also has the added refinement of once you're human with eyes, ears, head, brain, all of that, what are the odds of your becoming fully human? Will you be able to do it, or will you wander off into some kind of side trip? How much time will you spend there? Being fully human is going to take effort. Yet the difficulties, even the failures we may face in working at it, are important. If we accept our failures and work with them, they help us mature. They force us to grow. As human beings, we recognize impermanence. We understand how little time we each have to fulfill our fundamental vow to grow up fully, to become fully human. With human consciousness, we face unanswerable questions. Why is there injustice? Why do bad things happen to good people? Why is there greed, anger, and ignorance? Why is there environmental destruction, misogyny, homophobia, racism? Why do I make so many mistakes when I intend to do otherwise? Why was I born? Why am I here? Why must I die? Our human questions can be hard to live with. Rather than it automatically making us wiser, or more open, or more compassionate, they can also make us want to run and hide, lose ourselves in entertainments, in news, shopping, hobbies, work. They can feed into a desire to seek power and trample on others, all out of an attempt to escape from our vulnerability. It's a kind of cowardice, that drive to power. Time spent with family, time using our talents, deepening our care, our concern, our abilities are valuable. It's not to say spending time doing things in the face of our impermanence and our questions, and do things we love and we care about and be with people. That's all valuable. That's part of being human. But if we simply turn away from facing the challenges of being human and growing through facing them, then the Buddha's home leaving becomes a kind of parody. We have a privileged prince. He leaves his palace and all the shelter of it, and he steps out the door and he finds the four signs: age, sickness, death, and a path beyond that. And instead of going out further, he turns around, runs back inside, pulls down the blind, locks the doors, blinds, locks the door, turns up the music, and suppresses his great vow. With the hero or heroine's call refused, the summons to the quest denied, and this is certainly what The Hero with 1,000 Faces was all about. Campbell's really his best book and really a breakthrough book. With that denied, we become stuck. We become the monster holdfast. We stagnate. And yet, as the Kampeya or Kampeya Jataka, the one I just shared, makes clear, from a Buddhist perspective, despite all its obvious difficulties, ordinary human existence, just as it is extremely valuable. Even more so than being a god in the God realm, because as human beings we can realize enlightenment. And this is the great virtue of human life with all its challenges, that it forces us to want to know the truth. It forces us, if we pay attention, to really want to grow up. In this Jataka, a more than human, nearly godlike condition of ease, pleasure, wealth, and power is represented by the shimmering, treasure-filled underwater realm of the Nagas, a psychic zone that is fluid and rich, vibrant with beauty, sensuality, and wisdom. Inhabited by Nagas, Nagas are non-human serpent beings with very handsome male or beautiful female human heads and upper bodies that taper down to a snake's tail. In myth, they may have cobra hoods, one or several above their heads. They can also appear simply as cobras, or as giant cobras, or as many-headed cobras, or as human beings. So if you look closer, you may see a kind of glittering cobra hood aura around them. Nagas, in Buddhist tradition, can be sensual as well as wise and spiritual. It's said that the Buddha, recognizing, get this, that human beings were not yet evolved enough or mature enough to receive the complete prajna paramita, transcendental wisdom teachings on emptiness, gave them to the Nagas for safekeeping until human beings were mature enough to be able to receive these full teachings. Unlike dragons in Western tradition, who hoard jewels and gold, Nagas can be generous and have dharma affinities. In the legendary life of the Buddha, if you remember, the Naga king Kala Nagaraja chants ancient songs predicting the Buddha's just about to happen enlightenment. And the Naga king Mukalinda rises up out of the earth and raises his cobra hood over the newly awakened Buddha to protect him from a violent storm. While snakes have been feared, even despised in European tradition throughout indigenous America, as well as in Asia, serpents have been respected. I think it's a positive sign for the flourishing of the Dharma in the Americas. We have a tradition, indigenous tradition, of respecting serpent beings. And why not? Why shouldn't we respect snakes? They live unseen, mysterious lives in the depths. They seem to possess a cool and ancient wisdom. Though they're just flesh and bone, they can flow like water. Plus, they can shed their skin, reappearing as if newborn. The double helix of entwined serpents, which is the ancient healer's sign, is also the shape of the serpentine DNA coiling at the core of every cell on Earth. In Kundalini Yoga, the energy rising up the spine is called a serpent power. In Buddhist tradition, greatly enlightened beings who have recovered the wish-granting jewel from the depths may, like the great Buddhist teacher Nagarjuna, be honored with the name of Nagas. Still, are actual Naga beings just a human fantasy, or do they have a basis in reality? Perhaps the intelligence, curiosity, friendliness, linguistic skills, and X-ray vision of whales and dolphins, land-dwelling mammals who 50 million years ago returned to the sea, grew large complex brains, and developed peaceful social systems, provide models for these serpent-like holders of highest wisdom. A professional diver and his camera crew snorkeling among sperm whales, which have the largest brains on the planet, right after a sperm whale calf had been born, recounts this, like what happened like this. They were welcoming us to the most sacred of events, the birth of a new baby whale. They welcomed us, the same species, from the same island as those who had killed them less than 30 years before. That is why I know they are so much more intelligent, so much more sophisticated, so beyond us humans. The epilogue to the book Carnivore Minds by G.A. Bradshaw, which was the source of that quote, concludes like this. Despite what humans have done, it's a very interesting book on the minds of various carnivores. Bears, mountain lions, rattlesnakes, whales. I don't remember what else is in there. Even rattlesnakes, it seems, have friendships with other rattlesnakes. Anyway, it's an interesting book. Anyway, Carnivore Minds. So the end of the epilogue goes like this. Despite what humans have done, sperm whale culture remains inclusive, rooted in the belief of mutual respect. For sperm whales, the largest predator on the planet, the counterpoint of victimhood, revenge, is obviously unnecessary. And so it has failed to find a place within their society. Perhaps their seemingly infinite compassion comes from the vast oceans where they live. By the way, Dalai Lama, Dalai actually means ocean. Vast, empty, vast mind. Sperm whales have this mind from the vast oceans where they live, the largest brains on the planet. Their space and time subject and object fuse in the sperm whale click and coda language that envelops the planet like an invisible connective tissue. It is in this gentle world that we find an ethical exemplar who should inspire our own species' evolution. So when you think of the Buddha giving the Prajnaparamita teachings to the Nagas for safekeeping, because human beings were not yet evolved enough, mature enough to receive these full teachings, it's hard not to think of whales as being the Nagas in reality. And so we hope for many reasons that whaling will end soon. It is a barbaric and unnecessary practice. And additionally, if the Buddhist legend of the Nagas has truth in it, then our own maturing as a species may depend on their being around, able to share the teachings that they hold in readiness for us once we're finally grown up enough to receive them. Well, fins and fingers are crossed in the hope that that will all work out. Given all this, how could a human being struggling with poverty be better off than not just a Naga, but a Naga lord? A lord among Nagas would have wealth, wisdom, knowledge, long life. Who hasn't wished for such a life? Who hasn't dreamed of, beauty, comfort, pleasure, wealth? The Jataka provides the classically Buddhist response. Sure, that's all great. But being an ordinary human being, able to realize enlightenment, is even better. Our potential as human beings is a treasure of greater value than anything. The potential of human birth is greater than any treasure. That, in a nutshell, is the point of this Jataka. It's not just a nice fairy tale. According to Buddhist tradition, this is why we've been born human. That is, to undertake the practice of being authentically ourselves, awake to the non-dual presence of bugs, trees, sun, moon, stars, mountain, rivers, earth and wind, mountains, rivers, earth and wind. This Jataka says you can have whatever you've personally dreamed of, wealth, ease, comfort, pleasure, beauty, and long life, but no way of evolving, no way of realizing freedom from ego and fulfilling your deepest vows, or, just as you are, with all your problems and issues, all your warts, as they say, and all of it, you can choose to take up the way of liberation. The choice is yours. Which will it be? In the Kampeya Jataka, the Buddha, as the Bodhisattva in a distant past life, stood at this very crossroads, and poverty-stricken chose riches and splendor over the pains of an all-too-human life. And then he discovered that from the perspective of his deepest vows, he'd goofed. While becoming a Naga lord fulfilled his dreams of comfort and ease, there was a fly in the lavish ointment. As a Naga, he couldn't do what any ordinary human being can do, practice enlightenment. For that, he'd have to become human again. Oops. However, once he realizes his mistake, he sets off to correct it immediately and regain what he initially had, which is what we each have now and take so for granted: an ordinary human life. As the old saying goes, be careful what you wish for, you might get it. Mind-born wishes and desires generate power, and like vows, once set in motion, we have to live out their consequences. The Bodhisattva's recognition of failure in this Jataka of his birth as a Naga marks the reawakening of his ancient vows. When he was a sage named Sumedha, this is the introduction to the Pali Jataka. It's called the Nidankanta. It's the traditional introduction to the Pali Jataka. The Buddha was said to have been lifetimes, world ages in the past, a hermit sage named Sumedha. And in that long ago, distant time, world ages back, he meets the Buddha of that world age, the Buddha Dipankara. And he's so inspired in meeting this fully awakened Buddha that he vows to become a full Buddha himself, able to help all living beings. That vow is what leads to the Jataka tales, where he undertakes all the work it requires to become a full human being. Basically, he's tested along the path of all the paramitas, the perfections. The pain and regret he now feels when he awakes as the Serpent King is positive. His ancient vow reveals that he's drifted from his truest intention. Losing and finding the way is how Bodhisattvas develop spiritual muscle. This is what Zen calls power for the way. It doesn't come from just sitting quietly. It comes from being out there and dealing with the challenges of our life and finding a way to practice with those challenges and with our issues. This is how one gains power for the way. No sincere effort, even a failure, is wasted. All of it is grist for the vow mill. The challenge of this fairy tale like Jataka, and where its ego-killing venom lies, is simply this. The treasure we truly seek is right where we are, and it can be ours if we don't let our chance go by. But will we? Will we use this rare and precious human life to embody our deepest vow to awake for the benefit of all? Or will we fritter away our all too brief time here? There's nothing at all wrong with satisfaction, yet how easy it is when seeking some personal heaven to lose sight of our deeper potential. The core lesson of the Accompanies Jataka, that gaining the world can mean losing your soul, is universal. When Esau sells his birthright to his brother Jacob for a bowl of porridge, essentially, the greater is lost for the sake of the lesser. Blake wrote, more is the cry of a mistaken soul. Less than all cannot satisfy. Zen says, swallow all the water of the river in one gulp. For us here, swallow all the water of the Genesee River in one gulp. The traditional koan would be, swallow all the water of the West River in one gulp. More is the cry of a mistaken soul. Less than all cannot satisfy. In the end, the poor Bodhisattva, who so coveted wealth and splendor, renounces them completely, giving away so much treasure that the ground itself is turned the color of gold. He releases literal wealth to gain the treasure we each now have and take so for granted, the treasure of human birth. But mostly, this is what Roshi Philip Kapleau wrote, commenting on his initial enlightenment, but mostly, I am grateful for my human body, for the privilege to know this joy like no other. You can find that in the 3 pillars of Zen. But mostly, I am grateful for my human body, for the privilege to know this joy like no other. The Accompanies Jataka reminds us that 2,500 years ago, back when it was first told, human beings already tended to overlook their treasure, what they actually had, and what they might do with it. If you don't believe this is a true story, the story insists, look at the golden-colored earth beneath your feet. Seeing is believing is a very simple and very old storytelling device. Let this Jataka serve as our treasure map, really revealing where X marks the spot. All we need to do now is roll up our sleeves and dig down where we are. Our practice of Zen is how we uncover our real treasure. So we'll stop here. We'll turn the laptop around so we can recite our great vows for all by facing the Buddha, who went through all this. His Accompanies Jataka tells us a story it's well to remember.